For more on the attack, I'm now joined by Marcus Papadopoulos from the Politics First magazine, coming onto the programme very quickly. Thanks so much for coming on, Marcus. Good to see you. The police are not ruling out a possible motive here, that of an Islamist motive behind the attack. How likely is that, do you think?
Well, we're at a very early stage in the investigation, and I don't think it would be wise to draw any conclusions. However, if this was an Islamist attack, then no one should be surprised. And if the attack was of an Islamist nature, then ultimately the German government is responsible.
I'm sorry, Marcus, why should nobody be surprised if this is an Islamist-style motive here?
Yeah, well, because Western countries, principally America, Britain and France, but also Germany, because Germany is the engine of the European Union, has played a leading role in destabilizing Syria. Syria has descended into an appalling conflict whereby numerous terrorist groups have emerged, because Germany, along with Britain, France and America, have taken the side of Islamist militants fighting against the Syrian government. And why have they taken the side of these Islamist groups? Because they want to see the overthrow of the Syrian government, which would end Russian influence and power in the Middle East and would end Iranian power and influence in the Middle East. And so if we're talking about Germany, being the engine of the European Union, has placed sanctions on Syria.
Well, Marcus, I'm losing you. I do apologise, Marcus. Stand by. We're just going to try and re-establish this connection here. Can you hear me right now, Marcus?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah, sorry. Do carry on. The signal dropped out just for a moment. Where you were?
Yeah, because Germany is the engine of the European Union, and the European Union has placed sanctions on the Syrian government, which of course has weakened the Syrian government, has weakened the Syrian state. And if you weaken a government, if you weaken a state, you open the door to various other forces in the country. And those forces, of course, in the Syrian context, are Islamist terrorist groups. And then, of course, we have the refugee crisis, which is a result of the West. The West destabilized Libya, they destabilized Syria, they destabilized Iraq. And Germany, having played its role in destabilizing those countries, has allowed in excess of 1 million refugees into its country. Now, I'm certainly not going to sit here and say all those refugees are Islamists, but I think it's fair to say that a large proportion are Islamist sympathizers, or they hold values which are contrary to German values, British values, French values. And so it's inevitable that there's going to be these sort of attacks, the likes of which we saw in Brussels and in Paris. And I would also say that in the context of London, it's not a matter of if, but when there's going to be an Islamist terrorist attack. And of course, I'm repeating the words of MI5, Britain's security service. MI5 have made it very clear for many years now that it's only a matter of time until there's another Islamist terrorist attack in London.
So at the end of the day, Marcus, you're basically saying the blame for this lies. It's essentially blowback from a Western foreign policy in the Middle East.
Doubt. There's no question about it. Let's have a look at Libya. Prior to British and French intervention in Libya in 2011, did ISIS or another Islamist terrorist group have a presence in Libya? Absolutely not. Whatever people thought of Muammar Gaddafi, he ran Libya with an iron fist, and he never allowed Islamist groups to have any sort of presence in Libya. Prior to Western intervention in Syria, were there Islamist terrorist groups up and down the country threatening people? Absolutely not, because the Syrian government is secular, it's multicultural, and they stamped out an Islamist presence. In Iraq, let's not forget, ISIS was born in Iraq after the NATO-led invasion. Once again, whatever people thought of Saddam Hussein, he was a secular leader, and he did not tolerate Islamist groups in his country, and he kept them down either by putting them in prison or expelling them from the country. But after Saddam Hussein was overthrown by the Americans and the British, ISIS emerged. And of course, ISIS emerged in Syria in about 2013 because it had been receiving the support of America, Britain, France, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia.
Ultimately, Marcus, you're talking about years' worth of Western foreign policy in the Middle East part of the world here, and ultimately you're referring to it as blowback now as we have this alleged Islamist stabbing attack at a train station in Munich. Marcus Papadopoulos, Politics First magazine, many thanks. Thanks for your time.